Hey, it's Ryan. Thank you for watching. I'm doing things a little differently in the studio today. I'm shooting everything on a phone. Now, of course, you know what's going on in the world. Partially has to do with that. Partially has to do with the fact that I sold my camera gear. Long story, but really just I'm going to start over. I'm going to get some different stuff, and it's not to get better stuff or more expensive stuff, just actually stuff that would be more suitable for my needs. Also, it works out great because this video is going to be about movies that were shot on phones. So appropriately, I'm shooting on the phone today. Now, I wanted to look at a couple of movies that were shot on phones that made it to Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and other places that are big companies where people watch movies, big streaming platforms, and also talk a little bit about the process, the pluses and minuses of shooting on the phone. Now, one of the first movies that came to my mind, one of the first big movies that I saw that was shot on a phone was the movie Tangerine. I'm sure you've heard of it. It was shot on an iPhone 5S, I believe maybe 3 iPhone 5Ss, which is kind of cool because that is a very affordable phone at this point. It's considered an old phone as far as technology goes. You can pick one up on eBay for about $50, it looks like right now. So that's cool. If someone can shoot a feature on an iPhone 5S for $50 for the 5S, you certainly could do that too. So that's an inspiring thing about shooting movies on phones. The fact that it can be done cheaply, and chances are you already have a phone. So that's one of the positives. There's a few complications, which I should mention. One thing I think is a major complication is audio. Audio is so important. I'm using a microphone right now because the phone audio, if you've ever tried to use phone audio, you know it's not that good. So I'm recording to an external recorder, which is something you have to do with phones. And then something you have to watch out for when you shoot longer takes on your phone. Maybe you're shooting a longer scene. You're going to want to cut that up, get different angles anyway. But especially using a phone, what you find out is that phones have variable frame rates. The problem there is that the frame rate doesn't stay constant like your recording stays constant. So when you go to edit it together, the longer and longer the take, the more your video starts drifting from your audio, and it starts to look like an old kung fu movie or one of those movies where the English is dubbed over and it doesn't match up right. That's what's going to happen. So you want to find a good audio solution, and that'll take care of a lot. A lot of people point out how important audio is. It's a huge thing with your film. So Tangerine, I watched, pretty good movie, very cool color grading. And the fact that they pulled it off with an iPhone 5S is pretty cool. It's worth watching. You can watch that one right now for free on Hulu. I believe when it came out, they got to deal with Netflix. I could be wrong, but I believe I watched it on Netflix. Right now, as of May 13th, 2020, you can watch Tangerine on Hulu. Now, one thing they use that you're going to find with lots of these videos is they used a few very specific pieces of gear to go with the phone. With Tangerine, like some of these other movies I'm going to mention, they used a very specific lens. It's a Moondog Anamorphic lens. They're made for specific iPhones. I may have stuttered when I said that. Moondog Anamorphic lens. It clips on to your phone. It's made by a company not far from me, actually. They're in New York State. Moondog Labs. Look it up. They're usually like $200 or so. You can find it for your phone. And what that does, it takes a wider view and squeezes it down. Then when you put it into your editing software, you de-squeeze it and you have this beautiful wide frame kind of anamorphic look, which is very cool. If you don't know much about anamorphic looks, you can search that. But that's basically how it works. You can pick up one of these lenses. They used it on Tangerine, and they also used it on a couple other movies I wanted to talk about. Another great thing all these films I'm mentioning that were shot on phones use is this app right here, Filmic Pro. It is a purchase app. I believe it costs like 10 to 20 bucks, worth every penny. What it does is replace your native camera app with a much more in-depth app. So you can control focus, you can control exposure, you can lock those on wherever you want them. Also, even more importantly, you can control resolution. We've got Filmic Extreme, standard definition, 720, 1080, 2K, 3K, 4K, different letterbox formats, 4x3, all sorts of stuff. But it gives you full control over your phone camera, which the native app doesn't do. There's lots of other things too, like log, color spaces. You've got your audio meters, everything you want right there in Filmic Pro. And of course, all these films that were shot on a phone, as far as I know, all of them have used Filmic Pro. Now, the other movies are both by Steven Soderbergh. He did High Flying Bird, and he did a movie called Unsane. I believe he did Unsane first and then High Flying Bird. Both of these movies, again, these were shot a few years ago, so they're not on the latest and greatest iPhone 10. What's the latest one? iPhone 11 Pro. So these are on older phones, all of them, which is also cool because you may not have the newest phone or the best phone. It doesn't matter. What matters, again, a good story, the fact that you shot a movie, probably the most important thing. You learn a lot every time you do something like that. And of course, good audio. Unsane, let's look it up. It looks like Unsane was shot on an iPhone 7. So there you go. Like I said, an older iPhone. And it is currently on Amazon. So if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch Unsane for free. Now, Soderbergh, of course, an established filmmaker, started very much so as an independent filmmaker, now makes big movies. But he also likes to try out new technology, hence the phones. And again, I looked up set pictures and pictures from the production. I'll probably throw some up on the screen here. But they use the iPhone 7. They use the Moondog Labs Anamorphic lens. And then they use some kind of stabilizer, some kind of steady cam, maybe an Osmo or something like that. So really minimal gear. So there's another positive for shooting a movie on an iPhone. You can use really minimal gear. Like an ideal setup might be you get an external microphone that'll work with your phone. You can find those on Amazon, maybe like $40 for a really good one. You can or cannot use the anamorphic. That's really up to you. It's a specific look as shooting on a phone is. And then if you want some kind of stabilizer, but really, ultimately, I would say the two most important parts of gear anyway are just the phone and then some sort of audio solution. So a phone and a microphone. So there's really no excuse not to make a movie. If you want to make it, you have a phone, you can get a microphone for $20-$30 and just make your movie. I wanted to put this one out too, not only because I find it interesting that people make feature films on phones that make it to big platforms, but also because I made a video a few months ago about Netflix's, is that a thing? Netflix list of cameras they approve of. They're Netflix approved cameras, and they're very specific cameras for Netflix originals. A lot of people said, well, what about this movie? What about this movie? Yeah, you can make any movie you want. You're probably not going to be working on a Netflix original, but you could shoot a really great movie and maybe even get it licensed or sold to a company like Netflix, or get it on Amazon Prime. That's not hard to do. Or get it on Hulu, wherever. So really, hopefully this is kind of inspirational to know, hey, if I have a phone and I have an idea and I have a script, maybe script would be good. You can make a movie too. So this is kind of a counterpoint to my earlier video. If you haven't seen the earlier video, please check it out. Very cool stuff. This is all just stuff I find interesting. Now, High Flying Bird, by the way, Soderbergh's other movie he shot on a phone, on an iPhone. This one may be an iPhone 8. I'm not sure. This article here says he shot High Flying Bird on an iPhone 8 and Unsane on an iPhone 7 Plus. Regardless, they did it. Now, keep in mind, they had big budgets. He's a big budget filmmaker, so he probably shot it on an iPhone and spent millions of dollars too. But you don't have to do that. You want to find locations, find actors, write a script, do all the important stuff, and hopefully the positive message of this is just to go make a film. Now, there's a couple of other films. Those are just kind of 3 feature films that you can watch on Amazon, Netflix, Hulu right now. There's some other great stuff that was shot on phones too. The director, Park Chan-wook, that directed Old Boy, he made an iPhone movie. One of my favorite directors, Michel Gondry, who did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, he shot an iPhone movie. Also a very cool one right now. This has a little violence and nudity warning, but you can watch it on YouTube, at least last I checked. Yeah, it looks like it's still here. Justice League director and the director of 300, our boy Zack Snyder, made a really cool, very stylized, a little violent adult warning, but a very cool movie that's on YouTube right now called Snow Steam Iron. Very cool, looks awesome, very stylized. And that's another thing about using a phone too. You have to play to the strengths and weaknesses of the phone. For example, it's small, you have it with you, it's very convenient, easy to access, easy to shoot. That's some positive things about the phone. Weaknesses, you have to have an audio solution. You're not getting that dynamic range, that really nice colors and the difference between the dark parts and the light parts you're getting on these cinema cameras. So one of the choices is to make your film more stylized. The iPhone is going to be a style of its own, so kind of play to the strengths of the device you're using. But that's a great example of something that does it. Snow Steam Iron really plays to the iPhone look by using the weaknesses and the strengths of the phone to make a really cool looking short film. I listed a couple others that you can look up. One's called Uneasy Lies the Mind. It's a horror movie. That was shot on iPhone. Another one playing to the strengths of the iPhone, there was one called I Play With the Phrase Each Other. What was cool about that movie is that it was shot on a phone, but it's also about phone calls. So it kind of ties the whole thing together. That's another thing to keep in mind. Maybe you want to play with social media, phone calls, the way we interact with each other in your film. Why shooting it on a phone might be the way to go. And you can use the strengths and everything. Maybe use screen recording to capture interaction through apps and things like that. So there's a lot of cool options. And again, there's a lot of cool films out there. There's also some great documentaries. By the way, everyone always makes fun of the way I say that. That's just where I'm from. Documentary, if you prefer. There's a lot of good documentaries out there that were shot on iPhones too. Again, why would there be good documentaries? Because you've got your iPhone with you, and it's that thing that a lot of street photographers talk about, or documentary filmmakers, where they keep a low profile. They don't want a big cinema rig, so they use a smaller camera or whatever. Well, what's better than an iPhone or just your Android or whatever for shooting very discreet stuff for a documentary? Because you've got the camera and it's just your phone, and everybody's used to everybody pointing phones at everything. So might be a great way to shoot a great documentary film. One more solution I've used before, I'm not using it today, but if you use a microphone like this or a shotgun mic that requires phantom power, right? There are some solutions for that too. I use an iRig. I'll put a picture of that up here. I found it on Amazon. It's harder to find now because it's a little older, but it provides phantom power for more kind of filmmaking oriented shotgun mics and things like that need phantom power. But again, you can use a cheaper mic that's made to plug right into your phone, comes with the right adapters and everything like that. One of my favorites, I will link and I'll put up here. It's a little tiny microphone that competes with the Rode mic. I've used it for the phone and for my camera. It's the Movo VXR10. I got it for $39.95 on Amazon. I'll put an affiliate link down there. So you can check that out. I've used it for, again, the phone and the camera, and it works great. Competes with the big names like Rode. So that's a great audio solution too. So the whole point of this video, these are things I find interesting. If I heard you made a feature film on a phone, I would probably check it out just for the novelty of it. In fact, if you've made something cool, a short film, a feature film, anything that you've shot that's really cool on your phone, please let me know in the comments below. I'll definitely check it out. I love stuff like that, and that's why I make videos like this. These are things I'm interested in. I also think it's inspiring to know you don't need a Netflix-approved camera. You don't need anyone to approve what you shoot your film on. You don't need a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 camera. Those are cool. They have their places. I understand that. But all of us can make movies. All of us can make videos. And if you have a phone, there's a great starting point. You don't have a camera, that's okay. You've got a camera in your pocket. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and subscribing. We've got some new subscribers lately. I appreciate every single one of you. Hopefully we'll make some more cool videos soon. Thanks for hanging out. This is Ryan saying have a good one. I'll see ya.